Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. I think it's going to be a fun one. Today I'm going to be talking all about popular makeup items from 2018 that I didn't purchase or I decided to skip. I originally saw this video done by Kelsey Brianna J, so I will leave her channel and her video linked down below, and I thought it was such a fun idea and it really got me thinking about all of the makeup items that were like super popular in 2018 that I decided to pass on, even though I felt like my spending was out of control in 2018, which prompted me to go on a low buy in 2019. There are still quite a few items from 2018 that I decided not to purchase. So if you guys are interested in hearing about those products, then just keep watching. So like I mentioned in the introduction, I started a low buy in 2019 based on my spending habits from 2018. So when I started to compile this list, I didn't think I would have that many products on this list, and I was actually really surprised by the number of products that I felt were popular in 2018 that I decided not to purchase. So I feel like this video could be a long one. I know I have my coffee handy. If you guys are coffee drinkers, I'd recommend grabbing a coffee or a snack if you're planning on sticking around for the whole video, but let's jump into the products I decided to skip in 2018. Okay, so forgive me if I'm reading off my phone, that's where I have my list, and I tried to categorize everything. So we're going to start with the primer category, and the first primer that I decided to skip was the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. Towards the end of 2018, everyone was talking about this primer. They were saying it made your skin look flawless. It was like a putty type of material. It was just like a primer that was very unique. It wasn't something that you like pumped out onto your hands. It was Tatcha, so of course it was luxury, and I believe it retails for $52, which was part of the reason that I decided to hold off. I may have purchased it, like it was on my mind, it was on my radar, but then I got one of the little like sample cards and tried it, and I just wasn't super blown away, so I decided to skip that. I don't see myself purchasing that. I do really want to try the e.l.f. primer, the e.l.f. like putty primer that everyone says is a dupe, but appears to be sold out everywhere because, well, it's a dupe for the Tatcha Canvas primer. But that is one primer I decided to skip in 2018. I don't get like super jazzed over primers, but when I find like the primer or like a primer that works really well for me, I'm like obsessed. So I just have one other primer to talk about, and that is the Fenty Pro Filter primer. And the reason I skipped on this, I believe, is because it is targeted more towards people with oily skin, whereas I have more dry skin. And at the time, at the time that it launched, I just wasn't really interested in purchasing a new primer, and there were other products from the Fenty Beauty line that I wanted to try over a primer. I know I picked up her like highlighter duos when they first released, and I was obsessed, so I just wasn't interested in primers at that time. I probably won't or don't see myself purchasing this primer again, just because I feel like it's not geared towards my skin tone. But you guys will have to let me know if you have tried this primer and what your thoughts are. I actually have quite the list of foundations that I decided to skip, and I feel like I cut myself off. I have 6 here, and I feel like after 6 I was like, slow your roll, girl. You got enough foundations to talk about. So up first we have the Tarte Shape Tape Foundation. This was such a polarizing product. This was such a controversial foundation that even if I wanted to try it, which I did want to try it just because it was so hyped up, once the shade selection was released and once there was all that controversy surrounding it, I was like, okay, absolutely not purchasing it. And then the reviews started to come out, and the reviews were horrible, and there was just some really weird things about like how it was one of their older foundations like repackaged, and it was not received well. So I was really happy that I decided to skip that. Definitely don't feel the need to purchase that right now, and I feel like, I don't know if they just like reformulated again, but they're like re-releasing the Shape Tape Foundation again. I just think they need to like let that die. Speaking of Fenty Beauty, I also skipped on the Fenty Pro Filter Foundation, kind of for the same reason that I skipped on the Pro Filter Primer. Again, it was more of like a mattifying foundation, and for me personally, I like more of a natural or luminous sort of finish, so I just didn't feel like that foundation would vibe with my personal makeup preferences, so I decided to skip on the Fenty foundation. I also have the Beauty Blender Bounce Foundation, and this was another one that was a super controversial release, and even before like the controversy, I wasn't super interested in this because for me personally, I thought the packaging was just like, I didn't love the packaging. And even when I've gone into Sephora and like squirted it out to try and like shade match or just see what it was like, I don't like the packaging. But I have heard some relatively good reviews about this foundation, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm still interested in this foundation, even though I know there was all the controversy around it. I don't know if they've since released more shades or not. You guys will have to let me know if you've tried this foundation, what your thoughts are. I probably won't end up picking it up just because there's so many other great foundations out there, but whenever I hear good reviews, it like does spark my interest a little bit. Another foundation that I skipped on was the Huda Faux Filter foundation, and I am so glad that I did. Every review that I've read, everyone says it's so heavy, so cakey, it breaks them out, it makes their skin clogged. I know there's like a handful of people who really like it because it's so full coverage, but for me personally, I don't even like full coverage foundations. Medium is like my sweet spot, and even I can handle a light coverage foundation, but I'm not really a full coverage foundation type of a gal, so this just does not sound like a foundation that would have vibed with my personal makeup preferences either. So happy I skipped this one. Again though, you guys, if you've tried any of the products that I mentioned, let me know what your thoughts were, what your experience was with the product, because I'm definitely still interested in some of these. This was an earlier release of 2018. I'm pretty sure it was 2018. It was the Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Foundation, and I feel like this got super mixed feedback when it came out, and I was never truly that interested in it because, again, it was a matte foundation. But sometimes when I hear reviews like, oh, like I have dry skin, but a matte foundation still worked for me, that's when my interest is a little bit piqued. So I felt like I was seeing some of those reviews come out and I was interested, but still kind of like restraining because matte foundations just terrify me. So that's, again, one that I did not pick up. I don't really see myself picking that one up. I don't really hear anyone talk about it anymore, and it's just not one that ever really had that much of my interest. So I feel good with keeping that one out of my collection. And then this is funny. So I made this list before I made a purchase in February, but in 2018 I skipped the Cover FX Power Play foundation, and this is one that's supposed to be a matte foundation, but I have heard people with dry skin talk about how they really like it. I know Stephanie Nicole has really dry skin, but she's talked about liking it. Samantha March really likes it, and I know she talks about having more dry skin. So this is one that like has always been on my radar, and I had a ton of Ulta points from last year that I've kind of been saving up, and I finally decided to use my points, and you guys will see in my makeup rehab update for the end of February, beginning of March, that I decided to pick this foundation up. So I skipped it in 2018, but this is the one product I think on my list that I could not hold off on any longer, and I did decide to pick this one up. I have not tried this one yet though. I'm waiting to do a foundation first impression. I'm gonna try and do like a first impression Friday on my channel for like foundations, like maybe once a month or once every like 3 weeks or so. I have quite a few foundations in my collection that have been sitting there even before, like since last year, like since December, that I haven't tried because I've been wanting to do this. I have 4 foundations in my collection right now that I still need to try. So really wanting to start doing some like foundation first impression type of videos on my channel. So if you're not subscribed, shameless plug to subscribe if you're interested in those. Okay, up next we have concealers. I have 4 concealers to talk about, kind of playing off of the Cover FX. I also did not purchase the Cover FX Power Play concealer. It's $30, really expensive, but I'm not gonna lie, I've swatched this one in the store multiple times. I've carried this around Sephora trying to convince myself not to buy it. I've never purchased it. It's been in my cart even during like Sephora VIB sales. I've always like talked myself out of it, but this is one that I definitely could see myself purchasing, especially if I like that foundation. I've heard pretty much nothing but good reviews about that one, so this one definitely has my interest peaked. I could definitely see myself picking this one up in the future, but in 2018 I skipped it. I also skipped the Huda Overachiever concealer. It had a weird applicator and it was super full coverage again, which I don't necessarily mind for concealers. Again, I prefer more of like a medium hydrating natural sort of concealer, so this just didn't seem to vibe with my makeup preferences. However, this is one that I have heard kind of mixed. Like, I've heard some good reviews on this one, so this is one that I could see myself trying potentially down the road. I feel like I've had a couple subscribers at least ask if I've tried it, which I haven't, but I'm definitely interested in this one, so you guys will have to let me know if you have tried this one. Okay, another one that took a ride in and out of my shopping cart this year was the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer. I've heard that this one's super hydrating. It looks really luminous underneath the skin, which is like right up my alley. But at this point, I feel like it's been released for so long that I just probably will skip it. 2019 seems to be the year of concealers. So many new concealers have released. I currently really have been enjoying the Huda Beauty Pro Filter Concealer, I think it is. Currently really enjoying that. I have my Smashbox one that I picked up that I still need to try. I want to film a first impressions for that one too, but I don't know, unless someone tells me it's like the most amazing concealer ever. I just have probably too many concealers in my collection right now and really don't need another one, even though that would be, of my list of 4, that would probably be the one that like, no, I have the Cover FX on there too. The Cover FX and the Laura Mercier, maybe I could see myself purchasing down the future. Those ones were hard to say no to. And then I also skipped on the Tarte Creaseless Concealer. Do you guys remember when that launched? I feel like it was in like June or July this summer, and I feel like there was like a ton of hype around it for like a month, and now like nobody talks about it. I feel like there was like a ton of people saying it was like the most amazing concealer ever, and now like I have not heard one person talk about the Tarte Creaseless Concealer. So I'm not a huge fan of Shape Tape. Like, it's okay, but I definitely have concealers that I prefer over it, so this is not one that ever has like super piqued my interest, and definitely not one that I plan to ever pick up. I have 2 powders to talk about, and both of these, you guys, I have considered purchasing on multiple times, and if I get through some of my powder, I'm definitely probably picking one, if not both of these up. Even if I don't get through some of these concealers, I could see myself at the next Sephora VIB sale picking these up. It's the Milk Blurring Powder. I heard so many good things about this. I almost have picked this up so many times, but have held back. For some reason, Milk Makeup has just been like intriguing me as a brand lately. I recently posted, I can't remember if it was 8 or 9 products from Milk Makeup that I want, and I believe I mentioned this blurring powder in that video. For some reason, I just like have really been into Milk as a brand lately, so really want to pick that up. And then also the Lawless Beauty Brightening Powder. I really want this. I've heard nothing but great reviews on it. I really like Annie Lawless. I like what she stands for. I like that she's like a boss babe. I like that she is just like a hustler. So I want to support her in any way I can. I really do like her liquid lipstick formula. I want to pick up more of those, and I really want that brightening powder. Next up, I have bronzers, and speaking of Milk Makeup, I have the Milk Cream Bronzer on here. You guys, I'm going to get this very soon. I want this so bad, but I skipped it in 2018. For some reason, cream bronzers have just been like speaking to me a little bit more. I just picked up, it's not the bronzer, but I picked up the Fenty Beauty Match Stick in, I think amber. For contour, I'm almost through my Hoola Quickie contour stick, which took me a long time to get through, but you know, summer's like 4 months away, and I love cream bronzer in the summertime. Everyone that I've seen with the Milk Bronzer looks beautiful. This is definitely one that I'm going to pick up. I skipped it in 2018, but I will be getting it in 2019. And then I also have the Charlotte Tilbury Bronze and Glow Duo on here. I could have put this in either the highlight or the bronzer. I've heard so many people just rave about how beautiful the bronzer is in that duo, but it's so expensive. Obviously Charlotte Tilbury is more of a luxury brand. This is on my radar. I could see myself picking this up at some point. I don't know if it'll be in 2019. Again, it's on my radar. This is one that like was easy for me to skip, but I feel like I've been hearing more and more about it, so now I'm like more interested. And as I start to like curate my collection a little bit more, I've just been like on the hunt for like the best of the best products, so it's just like making me interested in trying it. I only have one blush to talk about, you guys, and this one, like, I mean, I skipped it and it was pretty easy to skip. It's the Kaja blush. It's that new brand that released towards the end of the year, and I swear it's like a heart stamp that you stamp and then it's like cream and you pat it out. Just like not a type of product that I personally would vibe well with. I'm no professional at makeup. I would not even consider myself like, I don't even know if I'd consider myself a novice at makeup. I mean, I really struggle sometimes, so this was an easy one for me to skip, and I wanted to toss one blush on here, and that was the one that got chosen. I guess another one that I could include, but it wasn't released in 2018. I don't know how many new blushes were released in 2018, but I have thought about purchasing. I know one. The Laura Mercier blushes released in 2018, and those definitely piqued my interest. I did end up skipping them because I believe they were fairly expensive, and I feel like they were very, very pink. Like, they seemed super pigmented and super vibrant, which just makes me nervous at times, but they looked beautiful, and I definitely like did the double take when I saw them release. That was another one that I skipped in 2018. I don't necessarily see myself purchasing any in 2019 just because I have such a huge blush collection that I'm trying to work through. If you guys didn't catch my makeup inventory video, I'll leave it linked down below, but my blush collection is out of control. Okay, I have 3 highlights to talk about. The first, this was a painful one for some reason for me to say no to, and I can't decide if I regret not getting it or not. I don't know if you can still get it or not. It's the Fenty Diamond Bomb, and the reason I did not get this is because it was so glittery. But then I heard Babs Beauty talking about like how beautiful it was with the glitter. But I feel like I probably wouldn't have worn it that often. I love the Fenty Beauty highlight formula in general. I'm currently panning one of her Kilowatt highlighters. I think her highlight formula is phenomenal. So the only reason, again, I skipped this was because of how glittery it was, but I kind of regret that. Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell. Another one was the Hollywood Flawless Filter like foundation slash like highlighting fluid from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is another one that was like in and out and in and out and in and out of my cart as well, both on Beautylish and on Sephora when they released Charlotte Tilbury on Sephora. A part of me wants to purchase this from Beautylish because they do like the payment plan, and I also want to try the Natasha Denona like Super Glow foundation. I don't know if that released in 2018, but that's another one I skipped that like I was super back and forth on. Really want to try that, but I've just heard Samantha Ravindal just rave about this all of 2018, and let me tell you, she is really good at convincing people to buy stuff, especially at least me. I just vibe really well with her. She's freaking hilarious. She's so brutally honest, and she makes me laugh so hard. She's from Canada and reminds me of a couple of my Canadian friends so much, just like the way that she like speaks. She just makes me laugh, and everything she talks about I want to buy, and this is one of them. It was very hard for me to say no to in 2018. I'll probably purchase this one in 2019. And then the last one I put on here was the Charlotte Tilbury Bar of Gold. This is just never one that really interested me, and then I swatched it in store and it was fine, but it's so small and it's $55. Like, I'd rather get like this was $62, this Hourglass strobing palette. $62, which I get is more expensive, but I feel like you get so much more product and I like these better. So that one was not hard for me to pass on. My hair just feels like super flat today. This is why I always wear my hair in just like a gross ponytail for my videos, because when I style it, what's the point? Okay, you guys, and next up I have palettes, and it was really hard for me to come up with a list of palettes because let's be real, your girl was just buying every palette she wanted in 2018, which is probably part of the reason that I had to spark this low buy in 2019. But I do have a few. The first being the Huda New Nude palette, and I purchased all 6 of her like regular Huda Obsessions palettes in 2018, as well as 2 of her gemstones. So trust me, I mean, I was supporting the Hula palette category, but her larger palettes, her $65 palettes, I've heard just super mixed reviews on it, and honestly, like, the pressed glitters in there just do not interest me whatsoever. Like, I'd rather just have her little Obsessions palettes. Those are some of my favorite palettes. Her New Nude palette looks beautiful. The color story really does speak to me, but $65 plus those pressed glitters that just like don't interest me, I just didn't need that one. So that one was pretty easy for me to say no to. One that was really hard for me to say no to, and is still a little bit hard, is the Pat McGrath Mothership, the 5th one. I think it's the newest release. I'll post a picture on the screen, of course. I hope that I've been posting pictures on the screen for every product, but the one that has like the beautiful like weird shifty green, and it's like a warm red type of palette. I don't know, I hope I'm remembering that correctly, but it's $125. I do have one of the Pat McGrath 6-pan palettes that I did end up purchasing this year, which I like for the most part. I purchased it for this beautiful blue shade that ended up being a bit of a disappointment. I've only used it one time though, that blue shade, so we're gonna give it a few more goes. But the rest of the shades in that Pat McGrath palette I really do like. I think the Pat McGrath formula has some very unique shades, shifts, textures, so I know it's expensive, but I think there's reasoning behind the price point. Now I don't know about $125 reasoning, but regardless, I ended up skipping that Mothership palette. Any of the $125 Mothership palettes I ended up skipping in 2018. I also skipped the Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. The Urban Decay Naked 2 was one of my first, if not my first, high-end eyeshadow palette. I think before then I was just buying MAC singles, and I think it was my sister who convinced me or like introduced me to the Naked 2. I was obsessed with it. I panned many shades in it. I went on to buy single shadows from Urban Decay that were from the Naked 2. And then as I got more into makeup, I just started to not really love the Urban Decay formula as much, even in like singles or eyeshadow palettes. I think the Naked 2 was the last Urban Decay palette that I bought, I believe. So the Naked Cherry, beautiful color story, loved everything about it, but I feel like you can find those colors, those shades, that color story in other palettes. I know I really want to buy the Dominique Cosmetics, I think it's like berries and cream palette that may have released in 2018. I also skipped on that. I also skipped, I can't remember if I put it on here. I did. We'll get to it next. The Latte palette. But yeah, the Naked Cherry, just Urban Decay shadows don't interest me that much. I never get super amped or super excited about Urban Decay eyeshadow palette releases. I do like some of their other products, but as far as their eyeshadows, usually never super exciting for me. So that is one that was an easy skip. And then I skipped the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. This is one in and out of my cart. I do see myself possibly purchasing this year. I have set my goal, or I've set a goal for myself to only purchase 5 palettes this year. So far I have not purchased any palettes. This is one, if I get towards the end of the year and I'm feeling pretty good about my goal, I may purchase this one just because I've heard really great things about it. I know it's more of a neutral tone palette, but that speaks to my everyday kind of makeup vibes. But I'm also very interested in her Berries and Cream palette, which I also skipped. It's a huge palette. You get so much product in it, and I really want to try her lip products as well. I love Kristen Dominique. She is beautiful. She has like body goals galore. Like, I just love her. So definitely want to support. But I did skip her Latte palette in 2018. And then the last palette that I put on here is the Marc Jacobs Coconut palette. And I can remember, like, this just like brings me back to think about the Coconut palette. I can remember going in the store right after the Tantastic bronzer had just re-released, but don't you worry, I had already got my hands on the Tantastic bronzer, and I went in to swatch the Coconut palette because it was beautiful and it just really fit the overall aesthetic of kind of that whole like coconut collection sort of vibe. And it was a beautiful palette, but colors just that like were super neutral, and there's things that I already had in my collection. $49 for a palette. I like their packaging because it's like super sleek, easy to travel with, but it just wasn't something that I needed. Even though it was beautiful and white packaging, I liked kind of the whole aesthetic of it. I had to skip it. I just didn't need it. Just didn't need that in my life. Okay, and then finally moving on to lip products. I have 5 lip products to talk about, which is shocking because I have like over 200 lip products in my collection, which is out of control and ridiculous, seeing as I wear the same like 5 lip products and just like cycle through them. But my list for you guys, I skipped on the Pat McGrath Matte Trans lipsticks because they're hella expensive, and I just feel like, why would you pay, what are they, $38, $36? They're in the 30s. It's ridiculous. And I've heard mixed feedback on them. Granted, they have some very beautiful shades, but I can probably find those shades or similar shades in less expensive lipsticks. I wasn't that into lipsticks in 2018. It was towards the end of 2018 that I did actually get really into lipsticks. I'm kind of like veering away from liquid lipsticks and kind of getting back into lipsticks. So I skipped on those. I also skipped on the Charlotte Tilbury, any of her lip products. I do really want to pick up Pillow Talk just because it's such like a cult classic OG staple. I do probably see myself picking that up at some point this year, but I skipped it in 2018. I also skipped on the Fenty Stunna lip paints, and I can tell you, I don't think I'll be able to resist those in 2019. I know she's releasing, or already has released, 3 new shades, I believe, for like this. It's got to be the spring launch, and one of them is like a hot Barbie pink, and I would never wear a shade like that, but for some reason I really want that. I think I'm definitely gonna probably pick that up and hopefully bring it to Vegas and get some use out of it, this summer. I'm so interested in that. And then she also has a mauve toned one that Samantha March always talks about. I forget, I think it's called Uncuffed. I could be wrong. I think it's called Uncuffed. It's beautiful. I really want it. I think the packaging is stunning on these. So while I skipped them in 2018, this is another one that I probably will not be able to resist in 2019. Natasha Denona released liquid lipsticks this year, and I normally would have been all about that because I love testing out liquid lipstick